Hello, and welcome to Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman. Well, this is podcast number 2 in season number 3, and we have a great guest in Phil Voorhis. Phil is the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine and Athletic Training. I'm also joined on the podcast by my co-host, Neil Hazen, who appears every now and then, so it's great to have Neil on the podcast. But we're going to talk to Phil about his career at Northern Illinois, but also he has a Ball State connection that almost happened, but didn't, and he became a Husky instead of a Cardinal. But started out his career at Miami University, the Miami University, not the one down in Florida, as a Redskin, not a Red Hawk now. And Phil and I and Neil have a great conversation that I hope you'll enjoy. So let's go off the roll with Phil Voorhis. Welcome to Off the Roll. I'm your host, Troy Hirschman, and we're here today with Phil Voorhis, Associate Athletic Director and Director of Sports Medicine at Northern Illinois University. Hi, Phil.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me this morning, I guess, now.
Yeah, and we're actually joined with Neil Hazen today. Neil's joining us on the podcast as a guest host. It's kind of like Johnny Carson's situation on the podcast when Neil comes aboard. So I'm sure that this will be very, very interesting and jogging some memories over the years with these two together. So I'm looking forward to it.
Always glad to be here.
Thanks, Neil. All right, Phil. So I usually start off this podcast with kind of asking, since it's your story, asking the question, how did you get started in athletic training?
Well, much like many of others that have been in or are in our profession, I was too little to play football. So I started helping out as kind of a team manager. And then there was a coach, teacher who kind of acted as an athletic trainer. He wasn't certified, but I really got involved that way, helping with my high school football team. And then into basketball, he encouraged me. I went to a weekend seminar at Wright State University with a gentleman named Dave Schoen. From there, I tried to go back and look. I know I went to at least 2, but I think it was actually 3 student athletic training camps at my alma mater, the Miami University. None of that U crap, the real Miami. But was a student athletic trainer. We didn't have an athletic trainer at our high school, so I was kind of it. Got in a little bit of trouble. The only ice machine was in the kitchen. They should have never given me the key.
Why shouldn't they give you the key to the kitchen?
Well, cookies disappeared. After about the 3rd time I got yelled at, they just put a little plate out whenever they bake cookies. So we were good. But, did that through high school, went to Miami University. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Unfortunately, organic chemistry and I got together and I ended up just as a chemistry major instead of pre-med chem. But combined the athletic training at that time, it was an internship program at Miami. Had some great mentors, worked with some good folks. At the end of my career, didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I actually applied to Ball State University. I had to get that in there. You knew that was coming. And, I didn't really decide I wanted to go on for a graduate degree until April. At that point, you can only sit for the GRE at certain times of the year, so I had to wait on that. As I was waiting and applied to other programs, I got a call. I was covering a summer baseball league. Got a call and an opportunity opened up here at Northern Illinois University, and right place, right time twice. I've been here ever since. This is year 35.
Wow, that's amazing.
So like I said earlier, there is a dinosaur on this dinosaur tour because, not a lot of folks in any profession stay same place that long.
Yeah. So where are you from? Let's go back and establish that.
So I'm from Piqua, Ohio, which is probably about an hour directly east of you guys in Muncie. Dad worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Mom was a teacher, but after I was born, I guess I was too much. She wasn't a teacher anymore, a music teacher.
A music teacher.
He was a music teacher.
Did you pick up any of those musical skills?
I was in the concert band. I was not in marching band, and didn't really do anything until my youngest daughter went that route in the marching band here in DeKalb, and have helped out with them, and actually I went from the athletic end of the world to the band end of the world, and my wife's got her own practice here in town. We were high school sweethearts. She's got a massage therapy business here in town. 3 beautiful daughters. I don't know. What else you want to know?
No. Well, oh yeah, I want to know what your instrument was in concert band.
Cornet.
Cornet. Yeah, something long and hard. There we go.
It has been transposed into my basement from Piqua. It has sat there. We actually loaned it to one of our friends when my youngest was taking up music in junior high. We swapped. He got the cornet. We got their sax for a while. So,
wow, things that we did not know. Yes. Yeah, did you know that?
It's taken 35 years to figure this part out.
Yeah, yes, it has. Now you asked me to play it. Not happening.
Yeah. There are just some things that are unable to recall with that. No. So what was, so you're the only student athlete trainer at your high school. I can relate. That's kind of the way it was with me. And to the point where sometimes by my senior year, and probably I'm assuming this happened to you. People didn't see you sometimes as a student. They just saw you as somebody that knew something that nobody else knew.
Correct.
Anything that you took away from that when you headed up to Miami from your high school athletic training days?
I think just the responsibility. Yeah, it was fun. We, had a lot of fun. I worked with the teams. I actually did letter legitimately in track all 4 years as well. Not very good.
Yeah.
High jump, long jump, and all the field events. Coach would tell us go run a mile. We'd jog down to Dairy Queen, get a blizzard, come back. But I guess the responsibility and the work ethic that my folks instilled in me, my brothers, it's just it transitioned to the point where, again, with that internship position, I came in, they knew me through summer camps. I ended up working men's cross country that fall. Miami had Withrow Court, Millette Hall, and then the stadium athletic training facilities. And for the first part of the fall, we were up at Withrow all by ourselves. No GAs, no nothing.
Yeah.
They had 3 certifieds and 1 full-time GA and then a part-time GA. Again, couple of Ball State alum, Joanne Winters and Dave Jessup were my grad students through my career.
Who worked harder?
Joanne. Actually, probably Dave, because Joanne had a position. She was like part-time rec center, part-time athletics. So I think she really just came over and helped a little bit.
Yeah.
Gotta give a jab at Dave, but no, learned a lot. But I was up there on my own. Wrestling started, and one of the seniors came up. He and I butted heads. I got called into Gail's office and listen, this is the way we do things. Okay, well, I wish somebody told me.
Yeah.
But lived and learned and went on from there.
I don't know. I can't imagine you butting heads.
No, well, put me up in a room by myself for 2.5 months, and I kind of had things rolling the way we wanted to do. It was myself and another student with the women's side. And volleyball had a senior student, but they were in and out of Withrow. They worked out of Millette more. So we kind of had things rolling the way we wanted to, and then senior comes in, you can't do this. Okay. So it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that you tell today's students and they're going to be like, you did what by yourself? What?
Now, traveled by myself. We won the MAC, made it to NCAAs. I may have missed the van to go to NCAAs, and my roommate woke him up. We beat the team to Cincinnati Airport. I was waiting on him, like, where you guys been? So, yeah, again, but you were given responsibility. You had the basic skills, and you knew when to throw up the flag and say, listen, I need some help. I don't know what's going on. And again, that was part of having some experience in high school as a good thing and also as a bad thing, because you kind of were set your ways, and maybe, again, without a lot of guidance in high school, this is what I had done. But I had cross country my freshman year and helped with other things. Sophomore year, I think I had men's basketball. But no, I'm sorry. Sophomore year I had baseball, but we won the MAC that year in football. So I actually went to California Bowl. It was myself, Gail, and Steve, and I can't remember if there was another student or not. And then junior year I had men's basketball by myself, traveled by myself.
Yeah.
Because again, there were only 3 certified athletic trainers and a GA. As an undergrad, we went over and played at Bloomington, Indiana, and this is the year after Coach Knight had decided to launch a chair out on the table. So there's a padlock padlock and a cable on all the chairs on the side on the bench. But here I am in one of the premier venues in the country as an undergrad, and then senior year had ice hockey. So again, did a lot of traveling, especially in the fall until football was done, by myself. So, that's been one of the big changes in our profession. In some ways good, but I think that some of those opportunities where you had to make a decision, on the road with the help of the host athletic trainer and host medical staff, really helped you develop as a person and taking care of your student athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amount of networking you got to do.
Oh yeah. I had Steve Radcliffe, Gail Newton, and Pat Tresh, and all different personalities. At the time, Pat was the secretary treasurer for GLADA. So I can't tell you how many Sundays we had pizza and legit sodas, not real, adult beverages.
That road pops.
Stuffing envelopes and doing things for her for GLADA. So you had a great role model there. Gail had a different personality and again, a great role model. And Steve Radcliffe the same way. I also, when I was a freshman, Mike Sully Sullivan, who ended up being on our GLADA district and state with Ohio, and then moved to Illinois, was a senior student. So you had a lot of good role models, good examples that you take the good things from all of them and try to incorporate those and look at the things you didn't like and try not to incorporate those. So, again, a great learning experience, given enough rope to hang yourself, but enough rope to pull on when you needed help too.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, who were some of the head coaches that you had the opportunity to work with, and what were some of the lessons you learned from them?
Tim Reed was our football coach. One of the days we were out screwing around before practice, we're throwing a ball back and forth. I didn't look and I smacked him right in the face with the ball. He never let me forget that. Chuck Zodi was the men's track cross country coach, and he was again, older gentleman, but in his ways, but kind of the old curmudgeon kind of person, but got along with him. Coach Pearson, that All State alum, and then came back to you guys, was with men's basketball. Bill Davidge, who I think now is still the broadcaster for the Columbus Blue Jackets with ice hockey. So again, lots of things. And again, Miami, the Cradle coaches, you come in the athletic training room my freshman year and there's Weeb Eubank in the hot tub, or Coach Parsegian stops through in the fall.
Yeah.
You can't help but be honored to be in a place like that, where you get to see those people. But Dan Dalrymple was a player and then ended up as a strength coach. Mark Christel was a player. He's a physical therapist still in Oxford. I mean, there's a lot of folks may not keep close contact with, but you see them and you see what you're doing. Even to the point, my side gig is as a spotter for the NFL in the early years. New Orleans is playing at the Bears, and Dan Dalrymple is the strength coach, and one of my former offense coordinators here at NIU is on New Orleans. After the game, I snuck in the locker room. I didn't sneak in the locker room. I had to deliver something. Went back, found those two, and we sat there for about an hour while they got ready to leave out and just caught up. So those connections are great, whether again, Mother Miami or whether here through NIU. But again, it's those experiences, being around those folks, working your butt off, being rewarded for working your butt off, which is, show initiative and just do things. You treat people the way you want to be treated, and you get treated that way back. So,
yeah.
But a lot of good times.
Would Jay Covell come around a little bit every now and then when you're a student there?
He was still around, but I never physically met him.
Yeah.
I don't at that point, I believe he was still alive my freshman year, and then he passed, or right before my freshman year. I'd have to go back and look, but I never physically met him. Now, I had met him at camp one summer.
Yeah.
And heard the stories about him going. There's a creek about a half mile from Withrow, and it was an old school tile tub. He'd go fishing, throw the bluegill or bass in there after lunchtime, and take them home for supper afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't. Now you look at it, it's like, okay, was that the foot debridement that they do when you go get your nails done?
He was ahead of his time.
It sure was.
But that again, the history there, one of the founders of our professional organization.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of folks that came through there. I know we're probably going to get to the camp thing, but even the summer camps, and I didn't know then what I knew afterwards, but they had 20 or 30 different lecturers in, and some huge, Ralph Reef, Larry Starr, who was the head athletic trainer for the Reds. I mean, Bill Jones, who was the head trainer up at BG. Good story about that. Ron Riberic, just lots of folks that as you matriculate through and get into the organization, like, wow, I didn't realize what the heck I was getting exposed to. So,
yeah. I had the same experience. I mean, I went to East Kentucky for my Cramer camp, and there's, Bobby Barton, who I just, at the time, this guy's the head athletic trainer at EKU, and not even not until I got into college realizing that, one of the
foundational guys.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That, and of course, Jim Dickerson was running the camp and had no idea anything about Jim until I got to Ball State.
And JD was at that Miami camp too. I don't know that he ever was ever at home,
Well, he was. He had 3 daughters. So
yeah, I know.
Carol may have kicked him out right after that, but
I could be.
So let's backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about that, because I think that's a big part of the molding process of when you're in high school, is going to these camps, which are, unfortunately, other than yours. And when we're going to talk a little bit about that, is that what was most impressive? I mean, what do you think going to those camps really impressed upon you that you wanted to carry this on when you got to NIU?
Well, I think for me is it combined what I wanted to do, which was medicine and athletics, and the whole sports medicine notion at that time was not really in its infancy, but, really wasn't in the mainstream. So having opportunity to combine those two things, for me, that camp experience, just getting to know folks from a 150-mile out range or something around that area. You know, there was another student who was from Troy High School, who's our, you know, one of our two arch rivals in high school, you know, getting to know them, give them grief back and forth. And then, you know, come Friday night in the fall, knowing the kid that's across the way.
Yeah.
You know, because again, on Friday, you know, on game days, I had a local physician, Dr. Gallagher, great guy. His sons, I think they may still hold some records at Michigan. And, you know, if you're born in Ohio, you know the directions to Michigan. It's north till you smell it, west till you step in it kind of thing. But, you know, was also a great mentor. You know, when he had to do sutures, he'd let me help. When he did an evaluation, he did his evaluation, took the time and taught a little bit what he was doing. Now, he was a general practice doc, but, you know, basically at that point, general practice docs did everything. There wasn't any sports medicine fellowship trained or, you know, in our community. So again, I think just being open to those experiences, having that opportunity was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Doc Gallagher, my dad helped me find a Ohio State toilet seat that when you lifted it up, it said flush twice. It's a long way to Ann Arbor. I did bribe his office staff that we went in and put it into their restroom they had in their office. The next Friday, he comes up with it, hands it back to me. Boy, I don't know whether I laughed, but this is yours. I don't want it around.
Oh, so even back in high school, we were.
Yeah.
So you just talked a little bit briefly about being at Miami, trying to find a GA position. Talk a little bit about, I mean, if you can, a little bit about that process with Ball State. I mean, obviously, you're looking at you know, trying to stay somewhat close if you can work that out, but you know, obviously, was
I was
GRE scars? What was it?
I didn't really figure out until after spring break that life was coming at me and I needed to figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And Pat and Gail, listen, you need to look at GA positions, and we're going to have a couple, but you're not staying here. You know, you need to go someplace else, get different experiences. So contacted you guys over there. Again, I was a pre-med chem until organic got to me. So my grade point was a little sketch.
Yeah.
Not terrible, be average, but didn't automatically qualify to get into grad school without the GRE score. So I had to take the GREs, but I wasn't taking that until late June. You know, Neil and Rex had coerced and bribed or done whatever to at least get me connected with a person in the college that could help me with a sponsorship if I needed. But he was out of the country all summer. So, yep, love to have you. And, you know, and then I'm sitting in a baseball dugout. I get a call from Bob Cochran, who's the head athletic trainer up here. He had reached out because Pat was his athletic trainer at Bowling Green when he was going through. You know, he'd started calling, hey, we're looking for a GA. You got anybody? Yeah, I got a guy. How the hell you got the baseball dugout phone number? I don't know. You know, that was pre-cell phones, you know?
Yeah.
And I just happened to answer it. So I had to go find a fax machine, send my resume. You know, he called me back. Okay, we'd love to have you in DeKalb. I'm like, okay, where the hell's DeKalb? And when do you need me?
Yeah. Yeah. That was that was my next question is like, did you have to go like whip out an atlas and go, where is this at?
Well, we had played NIU, but I'd never traveled up here because they were in the MAC and then they were out of the MAC and then we're back in the MAC. So, you know, but loaded up the Woody station wagon with my wares. Didn't have an apartment yet because this was probably, I don't know, the first or second week in July, and precinct preseason camp started early August, so get up here and do what you got to do. And got up here, found an apartment. Been here ever since. So
who was the staff? You mentioned Bob, but who else was up there when you started?
Mike Braid was
Okay.
the assistant athletic trainer. Stacy Mahowski was the other assistant athletic trainer. Barb Pearson had been here. She had left to go on to Wisconsin. Wayne Voppel was the prior head athletic trainer. Was still in town, but he was working for a sales company, Omni Braces. And then, some pretty big alum, Roger Kaliziak, who still helps our program. And then got to meet Bill Tessendorf, who was the athletic trainer for the Colts and the Ravens. And then a gentleman named Al Kranz, who was athletic trainer and one of the founders of our state organization. Had been the athletic trainer here at NIU, professor across campus, treated both men's and women's athletes. That point when he was here, it was two separate entities. But the sports med folks worked together. Yes, they did their separate things, but they worked together on that end of things. Then he ended up being the director of corporate fitness for British Petroleum downtown Chicago.
Oh, wow.
So he kept an apartment out here because all of his kids and grandkids were out here, and they lived in there during the week and came out to DeKalb. That was their summer home in the apartment complex. And he just passed less than a year ago, upper 90s, World War II vet. I mean, just an very, very interesting guy.
Yeah.
I got invited when I became head athletic trainer. I'm not sure invited, more summoned to a dinner at his house that had a bunch of alums and stuff. And I'm walking to the restroom and I go by his, a shadow box that had his awards. There's 2 Bronze Stars that I recognize from my dad and brother being in the military, and a whole bunch of ribbons. And I go back, oh, can I ask you about these? He's like, not tonight. Okay. So a couple weeks later, sitting down, talking to him, he was in the Pacific. He was a short, little, strong guy.
Yeah.
He's a tanker, but they ended up giving him a 45 and say, okay, hit the tunnel. So he was one of those guys.
Wow.
Now, that's about all I got out of him. So, again, that generation didn't like talking about those things, but I'm like, okay, this is a bad man.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
So, again, lots of good people, lots of good folks to work with. Our administration came in under an AD. He left after I became the assistant. Well, he left before I became the assistant because Bob Cochran left.
So
Mike
what were you working as a GA then?
So GA, I had men's soccer and wrestling.
Okay.
And again, 2 different rooms, 2 different entities, cross cover. We did it. There were 3 people, 3 full-time and 3 GAs, and we covered all, at that point, 19 of our sports, because we had swimming and diving. Just cross covered it. Now I got friggin' 14 people on my staff, myself included, which is awesome because now we're really committed to each team. The only folks that have 2 sports are my basketballs. They have the tennises, and then I've got men's and women's golf. So, okay, really, what do I do with golf? Make sure they got their physicals, make sure I got their insurance, and take care of them when they have challenges. So, so I'm more of an administrator and fill in when I need to. Then down staff, I've worked recently. Last year I had track and field. A couple years before I'd had women's basketball for a while. So, here GA wise had wrestling and men's soccer as an assistant. Again, finish up grad school, don't know what the heck I'm going to do. Interviewing. I remember actually interviewing with Ralph in New Orleans after a monsoon. So I walked over to
1990.
Yep. I walked over to the convention center in a pair of shorts and a coat and tie because the water was up above my knees. Interviewed for a job at UC and, interviewed all over the place. And then all of a sudden Bob left, Mike was promoted to an interim, and again, right place, right time. I got promoted to the assistant position where I had football and men's basketball for 3 years, and then Mike left, and I again sat outside Carrie Grouse door, shirt and tie. Middle of July, she's like, "What the hell are you doing here? I'd like that job." Yeah, you're going to be my interim. Now go get to work. Okay, thank you. So again, great, good opportunities. And then had primarily football for that time period until 2006, 2007. So that would have been 90. GA was 89 through 91. 91 through 94 was the assistant. And then since 94, Mike left town about 4 days after my oldest daughter was born. So I'm still a little worried about that. But been head athletic trainer since then.
Bill, I'll still never forget you were the first one to call when Rex left and I was moved up to the head athletic trainer at Ball State, and you were the first one to call and congratulate me on being Gerald Forded into my position. Just as you had
like
moved
me.
up the ladder many more times than I had. I moved up the ladder and you were the first one to call it.
Neil, and Troy, I don't know if you know this story. I don't know whether it was after kid number 5, 6, 12 of Hazen's. They came up for football, and we had moved their visiting athletic training area into this old racquetball court was our storeroom. And I came down, and who was the coach at that time, Shadell, or who was your football coach?
It may have been Brady Hoke at that point.
I think it was Brady.
Yeah.
I came down, I'd taken the chain off my chainsaw.
Yeah.
Down the hallway, I start the chainsaw. I'm like, "Hazen's vasectomy, here we go." And Coach Hoke heard it, came out in the hall, and he's like, "What?" And I said that. "Oh, yeah, please go take care of that, would you?"
That was the best. That was the culmination of all those self kits that you have provided for me over the years. And then that was the kicker.
Yeah.
No, and again, the relationships you build in any profession, that, yes, you do the work, but it's people you work with and are around that, you have to have fun while you're doing it. Because, working 70, 80 hours a week, you're away from your family, you're, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we all look back and wish we could have done things a little bit better. I think now with the number of staff I have, there's a better work-life balance for them. Now, football still gets hammered, especially in the fall, but they're practicing in the morning. They're in early, 4:30 or 5, but they're out by 2:00. So give and take on all those things, but we've had a lot of fun over the years doing stuff. Our Max Sports Medicine group, our meeting once a year, golf outing, commiseration, conversations, and then our educational sessions, and just seeing each other. Troy, when you and I were traveling both men's basketball,
Yes.
you're playing Kent, I'm playing Akron. We're at the same hotel. Okay, let's go have an adult pop someplace and talk about the crap that's going on there. So
Down the street in the bitter cold. Yeah.
And I don't remember, Jones will be able to tell you that little old lady's name at the dive bar we always would go to.
Well, she liked Jones.
Yeah.
A lot.
She may not have had her own teeth, but she liked Brian.
Exactly. So, in being in one place for a very long time, you see a lot of stuff. Kind of what, if you can think back a little bit, what's kind of been, I guess your top 5 things that it could be injuries, it could be events, it could be, bowl games. Stuff that you've been involved with that kind of has left an impression on, if you're looking back at your career, like, yeah, I can remember this really, really well.
Oh, wow. One of the things, and not really an event, but just the administration that you've dealt with. Gerald Adele was the AD when I got here, and then we had an interim. Then we had Carrie Groff, who had been she's an alum. She was our women's tennis coach. It's our first It's their first AD positions and my first being the head athletic trainer. So it's a learning curve for all of us. But again, always trying to do things right for the kids. And I think that's progressed, Jim Phillips, Jeff Comfer to Sean Frazier now. Again, always with that in mind. Now, the business end of things has changed tremendously from when I started. I'm reading the paper today about the kid from UNLV that's holding out because he's not getting his NIL money. Dude, you're getting a free education. So maybe I'm being maybe it's my turn to be the old guy complaining about that. But again, I think there's got to be a happy medium someplace. Big events, us with football making it to a bowl game after going 0-23. And winning, winning the Silicon Valley Bowl, coming back, the trophy sat in the back with Jan and I and the kids for a while. Some good memories or good results, but bad memory of the shooting on campus and the aftermath and helping put things back together. And again, doing the crisis plan, taking care of our kids, because we had some student athletes in that classroom, some student athletes, one who's actually a state policeman now, who snatched up one of the wounded kids and carried him over to the library. I mean, those type of things. I'm not gonna lie.
You just had one, didn't you?
Huh?
You just
Yeah,
had
I'll
one.
say I'm not gonna lie, being on the sideline for that one up in South Bend.
Yeah.
Before that, and I guess this one's a little more closer to me, is walking off the field at Alabama and beating them. I mean, there's only a couple teams that are 0-1 or 1-0 against Alabama, and we're one of them.
Yeah.
At the time, you go in there Friday for the walkthrough and you see all those championship flags and you're like, what in the hell are we doing here? And halftime's like, okay, boys, it's just a game. Let's go. And that whole boneyard victory, and I put some of that stuff up on, I had this old nasty plywood cutout that I'd made, and it was in our travel trunk. When Joe got here, they had done boneyard victory. So they, if we're playing Ball State, they had a pig femur that they painted red and put Ball State on. You won, you buried it in the boneyard. So they had started that, but then Joe and I, both coming from Miami, had that honor wall of tomahawk victories. And I'm not sure if it's still called that because you're not allowed to do that anymore. But those big school victories, and Joe's like, we need to do that. So went back and looked at it and started that. But I carried that damn thing around to all those Power 5 games until Bama, and then we pulled it out. And he's like, this thing's ugly as hell. We're going to get a new one for the wall. So, I think that for me, because football was my sport at that time, and being part of that, but again, there's a whole lot of them, but, I think some of those things you'll remember. We had a wrestler, again, at the stadium, the wrestling room was over there, got injured. My GA came down and got me, get down there. He's got radicular pain. He's got all this other stuff going on. Help care for him, ends up with a C6 fracture. Didn't do anything terrible to as far as any residual issues, but still get an email from him every year on that day. Hey, thanks again for taking care of it. So the wins, the losses, the good, the bad. It's been Notre Dame. I got to see some of our former student athletes, but the connection with, especially the football guys when I was with them, and basketball, and the teams that were my teams. I'm standing on the sideline at Notre Dame, and one of the players comes over and just bear hugs me, and I hadn't seen him in years. We're at convention in Philadelphia. Jan and I are there. We're having lunch the day before convention in Reading Market. And we sit down, I'm looking across, I'm like, God, that looks like one of my former players. And he's got his back to me. Hollis Thomas played 10 plus years in the league. Philadelphia, New Orleans, ended up back in Philly. And, he's talking to somebody and I hear his laugh. And I'm like, Hollis. He turns around, Phil, what the hell? Comes over, picks me up, cracks my back better than any chiropractor ever could have. And, just again, those kind of things. This is he was 320, 330 when he played for us, quickest defensive lineman I've ever seen. He's still a big man, but had those abilities. And again, it doesn't have to be the guys that played in the pros. It doesn't have to be the all-star. We had the Gumby squad when I was the assistant with men's basketball. Basically, you had the guys who would play, the restricted earnings coach, and then the other guys and me. So it was, the 10, 11, 12, 13, and the walk-on and me. So we were the Gumby squad from the restricted earning to the end, and we would give all kinds of grief to everybody who ran by us. May have gotten a technical foul called on somebody. I'm not claiming it. The ref gave it to the group. Again, those relationships, you see any of those folks, and it's just like you step back out. So
yeah, I can agree with that, and I think Neil can, because Neil, obviously you got a big dose of that when you got inducted in the Hall of Fame last winter, about how those people came out and contacted you, and things that you didn't know how much impact you had on those people until they come back and tell you, like, wow,
Yep.
you really did help me, or I remember sitting and talking to you, or you just spent time with me, where when my lowest point, when nobody else would really talk to me, you were there. And so I think those things are what make this profession special, because I don't know of in the other side of medicine, you're in the office, you're out of the office, you're in surgery, you're out of surgery. Maybe you maybe have a relationship with your general practitioner, physician, your family physician, whatever. But nurses come and go. You just don't make those connections like you do as an athletic trainer.
Yep, and that's one of the things. No matter what level you're at, and again, it can be said for any profession, whether it's a counselor, a teacher, us. You're spending time with those kids day in and day out. Whereas, okay, you're going to go see doc, and they're going to be great and helpful and have a relationship, especially the kids that are always going to see doc. But, when you're spending day in and day out, like we do, like our academic folks do, like our strength and conditioning folks do, and our coaching staffs, you just develop a different relationship with them. And, that's one of the things that I'm proud of, very proud of Thomas being our coach, because he was one of my players, and the work ethic and the drive that he has is the same right now. He hasn't changed. And that's why there's 21 kids that are on his team, on our team right now, that have been here their entire career as seniors, especially this whole transfer portal and NIL. And listen, we're working on the NIL money, but it's kind of like the Marshall coach that talked to when they were getting ready to play Ohio State. Hey, if y'all want to transfer down here, we can give you all these whatever restaurant biscuits you want. That's about, we can get you Cajun potatoes out at Fatty's. Come on up, at this point, again, we're trying to build that war chest, but I just don't know. Something's going to have to give in the next 4 or 5 years, for sure. For the group of 5 teams, and all this conference juggling, Pac-12 stealing a bunch of the Mountain West, and Mountain West now looking for new folks. And I don't know, it's just going to be interesting down the road. We ain't going to fix that this morning. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, no. And this little coffee group that Neil and I go to on Friday mornings, that usually ends up, that Jerry Pearson is a part of.
Oh, Coach, I said hello.
Yeah, that we all talk about that stuff, and how much sustainability does all this really have for these group of 5, particularly the MAC. I mean, obviously there's the haves and the have-nots, and whatever you think that you're in, you go talk to somebody else, and you figure out that you're not as far off as in the haves as you think you are, and you're definitely not in the have not, or you're not in the haves, and you're not as bad as the have nots, basically. And how it's going to be sustainable in this day and age is is the big question, you know?
Well, and I'd like to think from the sports med end of the world, we're doing the best we can with the resources we have, and we've expanded that. You know, we had a great orthopedic group. We used a doc at our health center. You know, Northwestern Medicine came in, took over the health center, took over our orthopedic group, you know, and that gave us access to additional resources, you know, but there are schools that got a doc in the athletic training room every day. Okay. That's awesome, but is it necessary? And if we got them, we're going to use them. So, you know, I think that, again, using the resources that are available, finding different resources to help you, from the sports med end of things, I think that we're doing a good job with those things. We can do better without question. But I think that's always got to be in the bottom or the back of our mind. But first thing, caring for the kids, caring for the student athletes.
You know, and Neil and I've had this discussion too, that I think sometimes we lose perspective that in the medical world of things, particularly at the collegiate level, you're not going to find a healthcare access situation with the immediate care that is provided for the most basic things, other than athletic training. And I mean, if you sprain your ankle playing pickleball on a pickleball court, your options may be a doc in the box or the ER. You're just not going to walk right into your orthopedic surgeon's office and go, "Hey, I'm here, flop on the table, and I need you to take a look at this." But yet that happens every single day even in my situation, in a high school collegiate athletic trainer, those people have access to medical care in minutes.
Well, and I think that's why our profession has grown in the, I'm going to screw up the term, but evolving settings instead of the non-traditional, you know, whether it's public service, whether it's industry, whether it's performing arts, you know, we've got a unique skill set to do those initial triage things, to do some initial care that would take weeks to get. You know, one of the debates that goes on, and the athletic trainer was the best gossip column and best talk show there ever was. You all know that. But one of the conversations is about student athletes being employees. And my end of that is, you know, there are a lot of good things for that. A, I know every kid's going to have some medical insurance that will cover them, and I don't have to worry about sending them home to California because they got Kaiser. B, guess what though? Now I got to deal with workman's comp. So Coach Hammock, if it's going to take me 2 days now to get that MRI pre-certed, wait until workman's comp gets in there. Hey, coach, you'll see that kid in about 6 weeks after we get his MRI. What? You know, so be careful what you wish for. And again, should they be compensated? Yes, in some regard, because we all know it's a second job. School's first, better be first. A lot of them don't think it is, but the facts are 1% of you are going to go pro. So you better get your dang education before you leave out. Now we've got some, especially the COVID students. We've got a couple kids that are in the last year that were part of that, maybe sophomores or freshman COVID year. They're coming out here with 2 master's degrees. So they've taken advantage of those things.
Holy smokes, yeah.
You know, but again, good students, but you have the opportunities to get your degree. And whether you end up going into marketing, going into accounting, doing whatever, you know, that degree opens doors. Not to say that, you know, we've got some former student athletes that have gone the trade route too. You know, I've got a student athlete that went back, was apprentice as an electrician, now owns his own electrician company. You know, and there's a lot of those that have gone into the service area too. So again, take advantage of the opportunities that are there for you. Should there be some finance compensation? Yeah, I think so. But when you've got a student athlete making more than the coach or the president of the university, there's something ain't right.
We're going to shift gears a little bit. I was
gonna say we're not gonna fix that one. That's for sure.
We're not going to fix that one. So let's talk a little bit about your student athlete training workshop. How many years have you been doing this?
So I did not help the first year I was here, so it'll be the 34th one that I've been involved with.
Yeah.
When I going back through some of the old records, I think this coming summer will be the 40th year
Oh, wow.
that we've had a camp now. I'm gonna take COVID summer out because we didn't do it. But it's, to my knowledge, it started out as a Cramer camp. When I got involved that second year, my second GA year, we had both a basic and an advanced Cramer. Roger Klusiak ran one of them and Bob ran the other one. And we helped back and forth with those. And we probably had 60 or 70 kids on campus for those two. I tried to go back and look, kind of research, but I can't find the exact year where Cramer didn't sponsor it anymore. We said, well, we're going to keep doing it. And I make a little bit of money for my staff, but more importantly, I'm exposing 20 or 30 or 40 kids to campus. And whether they become athletic trainers or not, I don't care. 3 or 4 of them come to campus, I've done my job with recruitment.
Yeah.
You know, we continue to have a tour day where we've got some local schools that bring their either health sciences or sports med classes to campus fall and spring. I think last year we ended up with about 350 kids that came through. We'll do a morning where they see all the labs over in our kinesiology phys ed department, rotate through the cadaver lab, which is our biology department, hear about our athletic training program, and then they end up over at the Jordan Center, Chesapeake, for a tour of our athletic facilities.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that, you know, that's one of the things I got to do today. I've got about 4 schools that I need to reach out and try to get it figured out because I can only use the lab on Fridays. And then in the spring, that cadaver lab. And then the cadaver lab in the spring, they've got a lot of high schools where their anatomy classes come out. So I'm not going to be able to really shoehorn anybody in this spring, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, but again, I went through it. It was a great opportunity for me to learn about the profession, to hear about other avenues in medicine. You know, I bring a panel back as part of the camp on Tuesday night before they have movie night. You know, a clinical athletic trainer, salesperson in the sports medicine field, had an industrial athletic trainer, had the outreach folks, had an office folk, you know, professional athletic trainer from the Chicago Wolves. I mean, I try to vary that so they get different experiences. I'm fortunate now that my senior associate Keith Duncan had experience with the NFL, you know, as an intern, and can talk to that a little bit. We just had a student complete a fall internship with the Rams. You know, so the program itself, the master's programs, it's taken a couple years to grow. We've got a good number. We got 17 students, I believe, this year.
17 students.
So, you know,
interesting, Neil.
what did we have? What did we have when we went through undergrad? Probably 20.
Yeah.
But there were kids that were never going to be athletic trainers, but they wanted to be around. So
What is there, 12 maybe at Ball State?
well, I mean, honestly, it took us. It's taken, you know, Nick and Tyler a couple years to grow it. You know, we had 5 or 6 the first year, 8, 9 the second, and now we're here. And that may be probably the sweet spot because then you've got to find all the clinical rotations and manage that and the responsibilities of compressing all those classes in. You know, so but the camp, I enjoy doing it. I've got a couple staff that I have tapped to help continue it. You know, they butchered my PowerPoint presentation last summer, thank God. You know, I mean, we update it every year, but I'm like, okay, guys, come on, clean this up. Let's make it a little more.
Yeah.
Let's make it what you all would want to see. So,
Yeah.
but,
How many kids did you have this year?
23, I
Oh,
think.
wow. Okay, great.
You know, and financially, I've got to have at least a dozen to pay the bills, you know, the housing, dining, those kind of things. You know, so that's kind of 12 to 15 is kind of the break-even point.
Do they seem, are they enthusiastic? Are they a little discouraged by the fact that they have to possibly go 3 more years of college or something like that before they can?
Well, I think they realize, and we've talked about it, like our program you can get in as a freshman, and it's a 3+2.
Okay.
So you'll end up with a degree a bachelor's in kinesiology and then a master's in athletic training. So it's a pre-athletic training. If you come in as a freshman, if you go to junior college and knock out all that stuff early, you can come in, I think it's a year and a half of undergrad and then the 2-year program afterwards. So,
Okay.
I mean, the academics, I know enough to get myself in trouble, but there's opportunities for folks to transition in and transfer in with the minimum required classes that we need, those kind of things. So, I've got my youngest is a student here at Northern. Fortunate, I get a half tuition waiver. So that helps. She earned a lot of scholarships. But when I looked at the bottom line bill, any of us, any public institution is expensive, let alone going to a private school. So understanding that they got to do, and that's been the transition too. Kids are working, kids are doing things away. We still have some of the old style. I went to every docs clinic I could go to just to be there and be a fly on the wall. We've got some kids that still do that, but a lot of them can't because they've got other personal responsibilities they got to take care of. But those are opportunities that, you got to be around to see. But again, know when clinics are, know when things are, so you can be around to be part of that stuff.
Talk to me a little bit about your little side gig you have on Sunday afternoons.
So
as much as you can.
Well, I was fortunate, probably about 7 or 8 years ago. The NFL started the medical spotter program, and it was one person and instant replay from whatever the TV, the broadcast was showing.
Yeah.
I was not in on that ground floor. Then a few years later, they expanded it to having 2 medical spotters at a time, and I got a call from Corey Lindley, who at the time was the head athletic trainer at Northwestern University. Is now the AD at Lake State.
Yeah.
But Aspen at that time, I had transitioned from football over to men's basketball, so I could before November games, I could cover most of those, and then it worked out because then he could take the after November games because he was working football at Northwestern. Just having a second person, now not 2 of us, and then it evolved into having 2 people. So I was fortunate. They wanted the NFL wanted somebody with collegiate football experience, not working for an NFL program. So, and that has evolved. It's also been a great, the additional education that we get has made our program better on campus as far as concussion care, evaluation, those kind of things. I'm going to do it as long as they let me do it because professionally it keeps you involved and sharp on what's going on.
Yeah.
In the profession. And, let's face it, the professional leagues, everybody looks to for what they're doing. And that's where, many things trickle down to collegiate, down to secondary school. Even just the concussion protocol trickles down to work. You get somebody that's got a head injury, you need to make sure they're right before they go back to driving a truck or doing whatever, So it's there's 4 of us now, 2 of us work each game. The technology has come from watching the instant replay that happened to be on the broadcast to having access to all 19 cameras that are going on at the same time. That whole program, and again, I'm not speaking out because you can talk about it, but the support for both teams' medical staffs You got two athletic trainers, you got three unaffiliated neurologic consultants, which are either neurologists, neurosurgeons, neuropsych, ER trauma docs. You've got a visiting team doc host that helps them facilitate care because your Colts docs aren't licensed in Illinois and my Bears docs aren't licensed there, so that help facilitate care there. And then you've got an airway doc on the field. So the two of us and one of the UNCs in the booth, everybody else is on the field. That's awesome. The care is provided, the resources are there, paramedics. But think about you at the high school, Troy. You got yourself and the two billy goats that are chewing up out along I-70. You're by yourself.
Yeah,
So,
I have the Shirley, Indiana volunteer fire department manning the rig, and one of them is the driver. Nothing else. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, when I was an undergrad, again, couldn't do this now. That first fall, Gail and Pat and Steve, hey, this high school, New Miami High School down by Hamilton, is looking for somebody as a basically first responder on home games. Okay. You're gonna get paid $40. Okay. So I went down. I walked back into the 1960s. I walk in, there's an old record player that's got, like Ohio State's fight song, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, just playing on repeat. It's a serious record player in the gym, and I'm taping guys up. And one of the guys happens to be Paul Eversole, who's now
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
one of the head athletic trainers at Miami. So and I go to introduce myself to coach, introduce myself to visiting coach, introduce myself to the ambulance unit that's there. And then the team doctor shows up, and I can't recall his name, but he's the county coroner, and he showed up in the coroner's van. I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into?
It's like our alum Halloween ran across the field.
Yeah.
It's a Grim Reaper.
Yeah, he was the Grim Reaper, Southside High School. Halloween, they have a football game, and he's dressed up as the Grim Reaper running out on the field.
Oh my God.
Not a good look.
No. But and it was a local physician, but he doubled as a coroner, and but
I've got you before.
That was
got you after.
Yep. I got you from womb to tomb, baby. We're good. But that was a great experience too. Paul tells a story. One of the first games, I taped a kid. I come in, anybody need scissors, whatever. And this kid pulls a switchblade out of his sock to cut off his tape. I'm like, holy crap, what did I just get myself into? But the kids were awesome. And, the coach, again, I did that as much as I could all 4 years as an undergrad. And you made a little bit of money, but what am I going to do on Friday nights? That was fun. So again, the opportunities you get in our profession, again, wherever you might be. I've been to Alaska, I've been to Hawaii, the northeast corner, you do one of those Facebook quizzes and where you've been, what stadiums. There's a lot of them that I've been to. I've been to, again, Alabama when we beat them. I've been to University of Florida twice, where you got folks that came right out of the swamp 5 miles away from the stadium, just gator bait all the way in. One of the games down there when I was the assistant, we had a young man who he got knocked into next week and was hospitalized overnight for observation. So I had to stay, and their sports medicine staff, I think it was Chris Patrick, helped and gave me his courtesy car, helped arrange for a hotel that night at I think it was the Grand Floridian. Once I got out of Shands Hospital, the kid's okay. All right, I'll be back in the morning. We'll see how you're doing. We were their homecoming team. Gloria Stefan was their act. Oh, guess what hotel they were at? Same one I was. Guess what floor I was on, because it was one of the last rooms on that floor. I may have crashed the after party for a beer before I went to bed at 2 a.m. after getting back from the hospital. So a lot of those things. I did Also, one of Coach Novak's last years as our head coach, our travel person per se. He was our assistant AD that did facilities, but he would be the front person on travel, left and took another position August 15th. I get called up to Joe's office and, Jim Phillips and Joe are in there. I'm like, I walked in, I'm like, I don't remember what I did, but I have no recollection. I don't know. Sit down, boy. They asked me to do travel. Oh, Jesus. It had all the contracts, everything had been done. I just need to be the person to go up front. So was able to, okay, I need to bring this GA up to full-time staff if you're gonna ask me to do this. So we were able to do some things there, but having that opportunity. And that was 2 weeks before we played Iowa at Soldier Field. And the university was getting all legal, hadn't signed the contract for the hotel because hotel rate was great, but then it was the Richard Daley campaign fund fee, this tax, that tax, that tax, that tax. Y'all, we're state institution. We're taxing them. Oh, no, not from these. You're not. Oh, shit.
Not from Mayor Daley.
But at the time, I think it might have been Blagojevich's defense fund fee too.
That's a whole nother story in itself, being a state institution in Illinois, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. But again, the opportunities that are there, that I've been fortunate to be part of, you don't get those every place else. And yes, there's a lot of nights away and things you miss on the home front as well. So, but there are opportunities that we wouldn't have had.
And speaking of that, I mean, you, because of the location of GLADA, the district meeting and stuff, you have been really involved with GLADA in that aspect as well. Can you speak on that opportunity as well a little bit?
Well, when I got to Illinois, and again, Pat being involved at Miami, the first GLADA meeting I went to was at Green Bay, and we left on Green Beer Day from Miami, which I've never partaked in because we always had stuff going on, but the bars would open at like 3 a.m. So from 3 to 4 beers were 10 cents an 8-ounce cup. Then it went to 50 cents. Then it went. So you go to class on Friday because it was a Friday before spring break started, and people are just stupid. They shouldn't be there. But Green Bay, there's like 8 or 9 of us in a van. We're driving through. Talk about Chicago. I'm driving as we get to Chicago, and then there's these toll booths, and I just blow right through. I didn't know what the hell they were. Pat's like, "Oh my God, Phil, what are you doing?" So, but again, having that exposure to those meetings, and then when I got involved in our state organization, we hosted a couple times, so I got involved there. But at the time, Roger Kaliziak and Kevin Gerlach were the ones that were running the meetings. So Kevin's an Illinois guy, Roger's an alum. So again, you get involved doing things that you see people doing and doing well. Fortunate enough to be on kind of we're the planning committee, not the educational part of it, but there's 7 or 8 of us that, take care of making sure Mike's work and this works and that works and stuff. And again, I'll do that forever. Great group of folks, and I get to see everybody each March and catch up with them. But long 12, 13-hour days, work your butt off. But again, opportunity to learn. Where's Phil? He's in this meeting. Okay. So get some CUs while I'm at it. But again, being involved and giving back to the profession, no matter what you do, I think is important. Go back to the students and just the mentoring that goes on, whether you're a preceptor or not. Notre Dame, I drove over separate with my family. They're walking around campus, enjoying that. I sneak in, get down the sideline, and I've got one staff member came over early, one student who's in his second year with us, and then a bunch of rookies. I'm like, okay, we're going to fix this sideline. Let's go. Well, why would you do that? Just wait. Just 30 years of experience of, okay, we need to set up water out here instead of right there. Why? Because you're going to make a freaking log jam. Just little BS things like that where, again, experience helps you, got to share it, and and again, that's just a little cheesy example, but, dealing with parents, how you deal with that, how you deal with challenges with your administration, with your coaches, those kind of things. My role is to help my staff get ready for their next job and help them grow personally and professionally. But
That's why you and Neil, when you decide to not be the last dinosaur, you two need to go on tour and do kind of like a Rod Walters type thing, but a lot more fun.
I don't know if we can take that little Mexican joint from Muncie with us on the road, but it might not be a bad thing.
That'll be a good start.
Well,
or Neil pulls out the key ring and we end up at the Knights Hall.
There you go.
The Knights is always a good last stop. It is. Yeah. Well, we're gonna, as we kind of wrap this up, I'm gonna have to ask you. I mean, you have seen probably over about 35 years of MAC SMA meetings, golf outings. Anything memorable in that time that you can talk about?
How much time we got left? How much time we got left? I'll pick on Neil. Well, there's two. We hosted, or we didn't host. Miami hosted, and for those listening, we have an annual sports medicine meeting. All the athletic trainers from the MAC are invited. It used to be co-hosted at the same school that hosted MAC track and field championships. So the meeting would be the Sunday night, or the head athletic trainers meeting would be the Sunday night before, golf outing Monday, Tuesday education, and then track started on Wednesday. So Miami hosted one year. We were playing at a course down in Hamilton, and it was cat and dogs, lightning. We got like 3 holes in. The folks from the course, hey, you guys can't be out here. We're the ones pulling
Having the
people
best
off
game of our life.
We're always pulling people off for lightning delays and that kind of stuff. So we finally get inside and, had dinner early, and, some folks may have had a little bit too much consumption because they've been sitting in the clubhouse for a while. So that was a good one. Playing at Eastern Michigan, we've now kind of condensed things around Eastern Michigan because that's kind of central for the conference. We play at a course there in Ypsi. Neil may have hit a ball into right off the rocks in the water. He goes down. He goes down to get it, and there was a gator that attacked him, and he fell in the water. Again.
Thankfully, our friend the Mueller rep pulled me back to safety.
we had to throw him a life preserver, those kind of things.
Phil kept throwing me back in.
But again, those are all, we have fun. As a conference group, we have the Fickle Finger of Fate, which is a rubber glove mounted on a plaque telling you that you're number one, and whoever has the biggest faux pas at the university gets it. It just got transferred. Who to go to?
Well, yeah,
Trent.
Yeah, because did you see this? So I'm watching. Have you ever seen the show On Patrol Live?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is in the mail or just got transferred.
Yes.
To Kent State University for a faculty mentor who was a little inebriated and couldn't get into her building to go pee, and then was subsequently arrested. I think charges ended up getting dropped. But when you make that kind of stuff, you get it. I mean, we got it for when my band ran through, my football team ran through Toledo's band. Ball State's gotten it for some good ones. I mean, we need to write all these down because they're just some classic ones. But
it started with the Miami Ohio football game, right?
In Western Michigan.
Or Western Michigan.
Well, it was Western Michigan, Miami.
Yeah. Western Michigan.
Neil would know the history better than me, but
it may have been when Yager Stadium opened. I think it was.
It could be.
And I'm trying to remember what happened that day now, but that was the day it got initiated.
And it's got a little bit of history and why you got it on the back of the plaque. And but you're supposed to proudly display it in your office or in your facility when you have it. So when I had to explain to my AD why I had a rubber glove flipping me off hanging up on the wall, he just he just shook his head and kept on moving. So
He just under his
Yeah.
breath went, athletic trainers.
I've been there too.
but you know, again,
Did Beth ever see that?
I don't think we had it in that time.
Yeah,
It was
that's,
kind of the
that's
COVID
unfortunate.
time.
That's unfortunate, Beth.
well, and it's not just athletics. You get it for stupid things at the university too. So
Oh yeah.
if your school makes it in the paper and it's worthy, then it gets moved along. But
Oh yeah. No, that's
you know, the MAC group, I do, you know, I think other conferences do, but you hear from the sales folks that, you know, when we get together, it's fun, the camaraderie, the conversations, the things that go on. I really enjoy it. And when I do pull a shoot, I think I'm going to be the ex officio meeting planner because I want to keep going with that. Just it's a good group of folks, and you know, having that opportunity to interact, you know, because you know, let's face it, when the whistle blows, I want to beat your guys' butt, you know, but something happens, we're there to take care of each other. So,
Right.
you know, as it should be. You know, you guys hate coming to DeKalb. I hate going to Muncie to get whooped up on with basketball or football or baseball or whatever's going on. But you know, from our end, yes, we can have those rivalries, that fun. But again, when the whistle blows, you know, somebody's hurt, we're there to take care of them. I mean, we all hate going to Toledo and seeing Jones, but that's a different story. So.
And I think that's consistent across the board because when I was at GA at Utah and I talked to Bill Bean about this on his podcast was that, you know, he and Dale Millenberger always had a bet in the Utah State football game and it was the Bill would put a fifth of Crown Royal up on the table and Millenberger would have to buy like 3 cases of beer or something like that and I remember one time we're playing my first year as a GA up there. We're playing them up at Utah State, and Bill was so confident that we were going to win that he didn't bring his Crown Royal. And we were getting beat at halftime. He sends me out in a Utah State van to go to the state liquor store to make sure he's got his Crown Royal just in case we get beat.
Well, you know, you're not allowed to bet on college athletics, but we always had a facility use fee. That's how we did that when we.
Yeah.
You talk about stealing the state vehicle. We used to do, and it had been going on when I got here, reverse tailgate after homecoming. So like the donor club, our Husky Athletic Fund would have a tent before the game. After the game, we would take care of the kids, do what we got to do, but then family and friends and any alums that had come back would go out to that tent, start the tailgate, we'd get out there. So we reverse tailgate after the game. I had an old Gator that had like the lights and a couple coolers and some things that I sent somebody and parked it by the tent for afterwards. One of my students knew how to start it, took it, drove it down Lincoln Highway, State Route 38, over to the liquor store to get some booze. University police stopped him. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're getting stuff for reverse tailgate. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're going to stop over too. Oh my God, Jesus. He tells me this afterwards. And the cops told me too. Did you send him over? No, some bitch stole it. You should have arrested his ass. But you know, it was one of those things. If you a standing invitation to anybody at work the game, the custodians, our grounds crew, anybody, we'd have chili and sandwiches and beverages, and you know, because you can't do it for the game, but it was kind of a thank you to those folks too. And I haven't done it the last probably 8 or 10 years. Just it's too hard to do that. And quite honestly, the number of alums that had games on Saturday and folks coming back, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot. And it was just our athletic training alums we were trying to connect with. So we haven't done that, but when the dinosaur goes, that might be I might have to bring that back up.
The ultimate blowout party. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's how you make, because again, a lot of people don't understand that's how you get things done.
Oh yeah.
You take care of all those folks and then they take care of you. I mean, are you still plowing parking lots every now and then?
Oh, I might help at the convo once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, when I came off the road, I picked up one of the duties I was assigned was some safety things here in our facilities. So learned how to run a forklift, lift truck, all that kind of stuff. The last big concert, I think, was Thomas Rhett. I ended up doing the damn forklift afterwards because guy didn't show up. I got to see the concert, but again, jack of all trades, master of none, but you do what you have to do to help. The story I love telling is, Dr. Gretchen Schlabach was our program director, NATA Hall of Famer. She came over one fall during camp and the air conditioner in the stadium training room took a crap. So I called the refrigeration guys at like 3:45. They're out at 4. They came over, looked at it. We got to get a new one. Okay. So she's there supervising. It's hot and heck. We got the fans going, all that stuff. She comes back the next day. They're in there repairing it. They overnighted something actually from Copeland, which is Sydney, Ohio, about 15 minutes north of my hometown.
Yeah.
They'd FedExed overnight whatever things they needed, and they're in there repairing it. She's like, how in the hell you get this done? I've been trying to get my air conditioner in my office fixed for 8 months. You want the phone number to call? Happened to be that the refrigeration guy, his son had gotten hurt playing football, and I looked at him and gave him some advice. And again, treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
But and again, it's not who you know. Sometimes it's what you know and who you know. Or it's not what you know, it's who you know, to at least open the door and help. But I think in our profession, that's very true, no matter what setting you're at. I think, again, having that rapport with your patients, the folks you interact with, I'll never forget. One of my professors in college had a question on the exam: who's the custodian in this building? I think there were 3 of us that got the name. Why did I get it right? Because I left some shit in the classroom, had to go back at 10 o'clock at night and bribe them in, beg, borrow, and steal to let me into the room to get my stuff. Again, treat people the way you want to get treated.
Yeah. And understand their importance and and I think that's the
Well,
key.
if anything, with COVID, that highlighted the relationships that everybody had because you all had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the challenges of bringing kids back to campus, and our student athletes were the first back on campus, and I kept saying in meetings we were the guinea pigs, and one of the administrators across campus, he's like, can we make them beta test subject? Yeah, that'd be better. That would be better, I think, instead of guinea pigs. But let's face it, that was probably the biggest challenge of my career, was trying to administrate all those things that changed twice a day sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, we're on a return to campus call with our department, head coaches, assistant coaches, all this, and going through the outlines, and then all of a sudden, this coach is chirping, this coach is chirping, and I just clicked a little button, raised my hand. I figured out how to do that about the 3rd teams meeting in. And it's like, yeah, Phil, I'm like, listen, guys, I appreciate all your opinions, but I'm doing what the president and county health tells me. Okay. And until you all are at that level, let me know your opinion, but this is how we're doing it. And if you don't like it, I don't care. This is how we're going to do it. And it was a little more politically incorrect than that. And we, I shut up, and then Sean's like, well, Phil just kind of told you what I was going to tell you, but I think you got his point a little bit better. and I was honest. I'm like, so I have no idea what we're doing. We're gonna figure this out together, but this is how we're gonna do it. So, again, that was nothing anybody would have ever thought of. But the relationships we had, the lady at the health department was an ER nurse and ran the ER here in the town in DeKalb. I knew her for 30 plus years, probably at that point. She was on duty when we had 5 kids that went into heat exhaustion that needed IV back in the day. When football freshmen came in for 3 or 4 days before the varsity, and they'd had a morning run, conditioning thing, came back in t-shirt and helmets, but it was hotter than heck. You only got 3 linemen, you got 2 running backs, and we only went for 40 minutes. 5 of them started to do the whole full body cramp. It's like, oh crap, here we go. So I'm out there. That's where that relationship started. And again, you never know, like you said, when student athletes come back, you never know what you're going to hear or what little impact you had on somebody's life. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's good to have those people in your corner when you need them. And that's, again, having those relationships is what really, really matters. And,
Yep.
and we've talked about that a lot on this podcast with different people that's kind of it's not a lost art on us as athletic trainers. But it is a lost art in a lot of areas that if they just learned how to have a relationship with somebody else, then things would go a lot smoother if that was the case. So,
Yep.
Well, listen, it's been an hour and a half pretty much. So we're going to wrap this up and maybe the next one we have with you is maybe it is with Carico. We didn't even mention Jeff as an assistant.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had some great staff members. Jeff was a GA for me and then the assistant for me. And then he's gone off to other things.
Yeah.
Again,
he's definitely on my short list. So maybe
you're going to be giggling on that one too, I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being on the podcast and so we'll just wrap it up here right now. So thanks, Phil, for being on.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks for having me. See you gentlemen later.
Yeah. We've gone off the roll with Phil Voorhis. First off, I want to thank Neil Hazen for being a guest host on the podcast today. It was great to have Neil along and hope to have him on a few more podcasts that we do, because it's always great to have somebody else kind of interject with the conversation with that. And I also want to thank Phil for taking time out of his day to be a guest on the podcast. He has a great story, and a lot more people needed to hear that story on where he's come from and how he's developed things and really making an impact on the athletic training profession at the grassroots level, which is not unlike my story. And I think that's the thing, is that Phil's really has done over the long haul an outstanding job of introducing athletic training to young people and getting them excited about doing athletic training. And really that's what we need in our profession right now, is somebody at that grassroots level really doing the work. Again, give us your feedback. You can go on my Twitter account, OffTheRollPod1, and respond a little bit to that, my personal Facebook page. Or you can email us at offtherollpodcast@gmail.com and give us some feedback on how you think of how this episode of the podcast. We love that aspect of it. So hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to having the next one and you joining us as an audience to enjoy another podcast from Off the Roll. Have a great day, everybody.